A very good afternoon to you. It is the 14th day of April, the year 2023. We are so glad that you could tune in to Lunchtime News. I am Nissie, Imano. Many thanks for joining us. Now, the launch of Kenya's first operational Earth observation satellite by the Kenya Space Agency, KSA, has once again been postponed. The launch was put off for the fourth time due to high wind levels in space, which might interfere with the rocket's trajectory and landing in the right orbit. The satellite, dubbed Taifa 1, is set to be launched alongside other 50 satellites. Taifa 1 is expected to process satellite images that would be utilized by decision makers to address multiple challenges affecting the country, which range from agriculture, food security, national resources management to the blue economy.
The launch to take place, there is the winds in the upper layers of atmosphere. When the winds are strong, there is tendency of the rocket drifting off the desired flight path, and if that happens, then we miss the target orbital slot. For us to attain what we want, where we exactly want to place our satellites, we need to get moderate winds, not strong winds which can have a drifting effect to the rocket.
With shorter nozzle. So switching up the number of engines we like.
Now, the government will provide security escorts to motorists plying the Kitale-Lodwar Road following increased cases of banditry along the highway. The Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Abdi Hassan has said that motorists should notify authorities in time. Recent attacks along the busy road have left several people dead and others injured.
In a bid to tame banditry activities along the Kitale-Lodwar Road, motorists plying the route will be escorted by armed police officers. Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Abdi Hassan says that the escort will cover the Kainuk to Lami Nyeusi stretch, where cases of banditry have been on the rise.
Tumeamua ya kwamba kuanzia leo magari yote ambayo yanatumia barabara hiyo yatalindwa na watakuwa na escort ya vikosi vyetu vya usalama. Itaweza kuwapa escort kutoka sehemu inaitwa Lami Nyeusi kuelekea Kainuk na vile vile kutoka Kainuk kurudi sehemu inaitwa Lami Nyeusi. Hii ni kwa sababu ya usalama ya wananchi na usalama ya kila mtu ambaye anatumia hiyo barabara.
The most recent attack along the stretch took place on Monday, where 3 people were shot at by suspected bandits who ambushed the vehicles they were traveling in.
Hatuna nafasi na majambazi. Tutawasaka, tutawarokota na tutawashughulikia jinsi inavyotakikana, manake wametuletea madhara ambayo hatuwezi kugharimia kwa wakati huu.
The Rift Valley Regional Commissioner spoke in Doldol Town in Laikipia North Sub-County, where he oversaw relief food distribution and assessed the ongoing operation within Mokogodo Forest to flush out armed bandits and cattle rustlers.
Tumeweka mkazo ya kushika doria zaidi katika sehemu hii. Vile vile tuko na mpango ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba msitu huu usitumike kuwa maficho ya hawa majambazi.
Nissie Kware, Lunchtime News.
And Muslim community in Embu has protested the dumping of garbage in the cemetery located at Kagunga Village, Manyata constituency. They claim their departed kin can't rest in peace owing to the garbage that keeps accumulating at the site. They are blaming the former administration of the county government for their woes.
Heaps of garbage at the Muslim cemetery located at Kagunga Village in Manyata, Embu County. The cemetery was allocated to the Muslim community over 4 decades ago by the defunct municipal council, but over the last 10 years, this is what it has turned into. Families in agony as some are unable to trace the graves of their kin.
Kuna dampi wa uchafu mwingi. Sasa hata kaburi zingine zishafunikiwa, huko ni makaburi matupu, lakini hauwezi jua kaburi ya mtu wako yuko wapi. Sasa labda hizi nakumbuka 3 4, hizo zingine zote zinafunikiwa na takataka.
The community saying that owing to the garbage, they have run out of space to bury their loved ones.
Sasa hata tuna heshima katika hali ya makaburi yetu hapo hivi. Hata ukija unashindwa utazika mtu wako wapi. Kaburi zile zaonekana ni 2, zingine zote ziko chini ya takataka.
Sisi hatuna mahali ya kuzika kwa sasa, kwa vile zile kaburi ambao tunatumia pale majimbo imejaa kama vile wazee wameelezea. Imekuwa sasa tunapanga wale maiti wetu kama gorofa safu. Kunaye kwa chini, kunaye kwa katikati, kunaye kwa juu, kunaye kwa mezzanine kule chini.
They are now calling on the county boss Cecily Mbarire to intervene as attempts to fence the graveyard have proved futile over time.
Tukanunua vigingi kama jamii ya Kiislamu, tukishikana sote Embu County, tukakuja tukaweka vigingi vya kujaribu kufence ili hizi gari za ambazo zinaleta takataka ziwache kuweka hapa. Unfortunately ni kama hizo vigingi waliondoa na takataka wakaendelea kuwekelea.
So tungeomba serikali tafadhali tusaidie tupate mahali petu pa kuzika kama kawaida. Watu waondolee hizi takataka kwa sababu town zishajaa. Mwisho tutazika wapi?
Nissie Kware, Lunchtime News.
Elsewhere, a group of students from Ronald Ngala Memorial Secondary School in Kilifi County has innovated 2 science teaching aids. The innovators claim the 2 gadgets will make science topics easy to comprehend.
Difficulty in comprehending science lessons in schools has motivated a group of students from Ronald Ngala Memorial Secondary School in Kilifi County to develop science teaching aids.
From students reading directly from the course book, it is hard for them to memorize concepts, but when you use the song, the students become motivated, they have positive attitude, and then songs have a link in memorization.
The 2 innovations, namely Elewa Science Teaching Aid and the Study Buddy gadget, have been touted as tools that will help students love sciences and record impressive results in national examinations.
We introduced this model in our school so as to improve the students' academic performance in physics, specifically in current electricity and mains electricity.
It can be used by teachers, also the students. Mostly the students can also take part in composing songs that they can be able to memorize concepts in science and mathematics that they can make them to be able to recall during exams other than reading directly from the course book.
The students and teachers are now calling on the Ministry of Education to approve and adopt the new technologies and also improve them so that they can be incorporated among teaching aids in Kenya.
I can request or recommend the Ministry of Education and the KICD to take up this project, enhance it, and it can be used in high schools and in higher learning institutions to be able to teach the 4 topics in physics.
Pauline Nasimil for Lunchtime News.
Elsewhere, Lari Member of Parliament Mburu Kahangara has applauded the government's move to shelve the introduction of new projects but to focus on completing ongoing ones. This is after President William Ruto on Tuesday said his government will prioritize the completion of the project left by the former regime. Kahangara spoke at Lari Sub-County headquarters where he distributed bursary checks for universities and college students. A total of 15,000 students benefited. He urged the parents to support their children to acquire quality education.
Already a shortfall of about 1 trillion shillings, which was never exposed to Kenyans. And that is what has brought about the idea of trying to see that the projects which were marked to be done, anything that has not started is going to be put aside so that we can be able to put a balance. As much as we are saying that there is no money in government, we want to assure Kenyans that we are continuing and we are collecting taxes. As we talk now, whatever was projected to be collected by KRA, we have already hit 95%, meaning we are getting closer there to be able to collect all the finances that we expected from KRA. So moving forward, we are going to get more money, and if we don't put ourselves into any new projects, then I think we are going to manage the budget as it is.
All right, it is time for a fast break, but don't go too far. We'll be back with more.
Excuse me, I'm talking with that mama, not you.
Unasema nini?
Naongea na wewe mzee.
Nani? Yeye nani?
Huyu anaki kanisa.
Nilisema unyamaze.
Wakati wako utafika.
Sawa. Makosa yangu ni nini?
Sasa makosa yako, wewe nachukua, wewe bado sema wewe naenda wapi? Kumbe wewe ilikuwa na mpango ya kwenda nyumbani na wewe hapana sema.
Nyumbani wewe uliniandikia niende nyumbani.
Ukiuliza hiyo swali, si alizima ikazimikia ukiwa Western. Kwa hivyo ilikuwa na mafuta.
Western nilienda kufanya nini? Ndio hiyo.
Ulize wewe mwenyewe.
Na kuuliza Western nilikuwa naenda kufanya nini? Which car you have?
Wewe mbona wewe hatutaki kujua gari gani yako nayo. Hiyo si muhimu kwa hii kesi.
Wewe ndio unauliza mami.
Bwana heshima bwana.
No, nauliza tu, sina ubaya. Na wakati wewe uchukua simu yako ukatrack hiyo gari, do you know ninge cause a lot of jam kwa sababu ya kunifungia hiyo simu na nilikuwa kwa speed. Do you know that?
Baba, umejua kunifurahisha. Baba, umenifuta machozi.
We know there are many marriages that are working, there are many marriages that are shaky, and there are also many marriages that have gone through a divorce.
True marriage today are working because they are based on facts, not luck. Watu wamekaa chini wakaangalia wakaona, hey, things have evolved.
To be honest, there is no way you can be pure. You have been pure. You have. I keep my body holy for you, to your glory, and then God akupatie a man who has been John Tekevo Brayo huko nje kila saa.
Wedding inaanza after wedding show. Unajua kuna.
Yes. Absolutely.
Even listening to yourself.
We need to talk.
He's not out of the woods, and we need to look after him in the hospital for a little while.
I can feel the anorexia. Something is not right.
Wait. Hold on. Tatu nikuondoke.
Tumaliza makeup yote juu ya date.
George, I think you've said enough.
You're officially fired.
I'll send you official communication via email, okay?
Kwani mlipromote haka? What's his body language normally like when he hears my name?
Na kazi yako ni kukatch my feelings na kufight gasheri, si ndio?
Does God really want to reveal the future to you in your dreams, brother?
Ever since Jacob decided to replace Reuben with Joseph as his favorite, I've been fearful of what my son might do.
It's not Reuben. It's Bella.
I can't resist her, brother. Bella's stunning.
Joseph has blinded our father and stole your rightful place beside him. We must get rid of him at once.
If only we could, Simeon.
Why can't we? We need only to be alone with that traitor. Then we finish him off.
Yes!
I am a Hebrew, sir. I am here because my brother sold me as a slave to Jatur, the slave trader.
Your own brothers? They sold you? Joseph of Egypt.
Differently.
I used to record one of your programs, which was being done by James Onyango Joel, or JOJ, it was called Zilizopendo. So I used to record golden oldies for my father, so that when he comes and in the evening, he could play back the song. So that is where my enthusiasm for, disc jockeying began.
We're differently abled.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, Kisii County students whose parents and guardians did not participate in the 2022 general election risk missing out on bursary allocation. This is after Governor Simba Arati announced that officials would use the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission register to identify bursary beneficiaries. This even as Nairobi woman MP reiterated that her office is keen on cracking the whip on corruption in the distribution of bursaries.
Hii pesa yangu na hawa committee members wangu tuhakikishe itafika mashinani. Hata kama ni kidogo, afadhali ifike, hata ikiwa hiyo kidogo. Itakuwa dhambi kubwa kama hiyo kidogo haitafika kusaidia watu wetu, si ndio? So hiyo hawa watu wote ambao mmeona hapa wamekuwa committed kuhakikisha tumeserve. Tumeka the first safe house run by the government. Nairobi County will be running the safe house. Tumeanza kuijenga. Hiyo safe house tumepewa ardhi ambao walikuwa wanataka kunyakua, lakini tumeisave. Tumejenga safe house. Tuko na project ya containers kwa 17 police stations, ili saa ile umekuwa defiled, ukienda police station uingizwe cells.
We cross over to Malindi now, where 4 people have died while being rushed to hospital, while 11 others are admitted at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital, 3 in critical condition. According to sources, police raided Shakahola village in Kilifi County Thursday morning and rescued people who had gone for days without food following radical teachings from controversial pastor Paul Mackenzie. Human rights activists are demanding the arrest of a man believed to be behind the bizarre rituals.
Police officers led by Malindi Sub-County Criminal Investigations Officer Charles Kamau
We apologize for that technical hitch, but let's take a break and we'll be back in a few.
Diani is world famous for sun-kissed beaches and exotic resorts. But this place is carving a niche for itself. It is fast becoming a decision-making destination for ICT issues.
Ideas that have been shared in this summit has provoked new ways of thinking to be able to deploy technology going forward into the future.
This week on Inside Government, I talked to ACTA Chief Executive Officer Stanley Kamangoya on the just concluded Connected Kenya Conference. We look at the resolutions and the way forward. Watch the conversation right here on KBC Channel 1 with me, O'Brien Kimani.
Excuse me, I'm talking with that mama, not you.
Unasema nini?
Naongea na wewe mwenyewe. Nani? Huyu andaki kanisa.
Nilisema unyamaze. Wakati wako utafika.
Sawa. Makosa yangu ni nini?
Sasa makosa yako, wewe nachukua, wewe bado sema wewe naenda wapi? Kumbe wewe ilikuwa na mpango ya kwenda nyumbani na wewe hapana sema.
Nyumbani wewe uliniandikia niende nyumbani.
Ukiuliza hiyo swali, si alizima ikazimikia ukiwa Western. Kwa hivyo ilikuwa na mafuta.
Western nilienda kufanya nini? Ndio hiyo.
Ulize wewe mwenyewe.
Na kuuliza Western nilikuwa naenda kufanya nini? Which car you have?
Wewe mbona wewe hatutaki kujua gari gani yako nayo. Hiyo si muhimu kwa hii kesi.
Wewe ndio unauliza mami. Wewe heshima bwana. No, nauliza tu, sina ubaya. Na wakati wewe uchukua simu yako ukatrack hiyo gari. Do you know ninge cause a lot of jam kwa sababu ya kunifungia hiyo simu na nilikuwa kwa speed. Do you know that?
Umejua kunifurahisha umenifuta machozi.
We know there are many marriages that are working, there are many marriages that are shaky, and there are also many marriages that have gone through a divorce.
True marriage today are working because they are based on facts, not luck. Watu wamekaa chini, wakaangalia, wakaona, hey, things have evolved.
To be honest, there is no way you can be pure. You have been pure. You have prayed, you have told God, I keep my body holy for you, to your glory. And then God akupatie a man who has been John Tekevo Brai huko nje kila saa.
Wedding inaanza after wedding show. Unajua kuna.
Yes. Absolutely.
Kwa miaka karibu 6 sijawahi kufanya mkutano wa Injili maeneo ya Pwani, haswa Mombasa. Mkutano huu utakuwa mkubwa zaidi mahali panaitwa VOK karibu na Bombolulu. Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
Mwingine ndio yule ameponea kule wako wengi.
Umetoka wapi? Umetoka Shega.
Shida ilikuwa ni mfupa.
Arthritis. Pressure. Ulcers. Wakatano. Nimemeza dawa aina yoyote.
Leo unatembea.
Leo nimepona.
Mtampe Yesu makofi mazuri.
Mungu akuponye jinsi ambavyo amewaponya hao.
The number is growing without preaching. Whenever Jesus is, miracles and wonders will never cease.
Welcome back. Let's retake the Malindi story. Now 4 people have died while being rushed to hospital, while 11 others are admitted at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital, 3 in critical condition. According to sources, police raided Shakahola village in Kilifi County Thursday morning and rescued people who had gone for days without food following radical teachings from controversial pastor Paul Mackenzie. Human rights activists are demanding the arrest of a man believed to be behind the bizarre rituals.
Police officers led by Malindi Sub-County Criminal Investigations Officer Charles Kamau rescued 11 people from a sprawling forest in remote Shakahola area. 4 people died on their way to hospital.
The area is very vast and vehicles could not get to where they are. So as we are trying to get them to where the transport was, 4 succumbed. And the rest were taken to hospital and 3 were in critical condition. Up to now, they're in critical condition.
It is alleged the 15 people who are allegedly manipulated into fasting by pastor of the Good News International Church.
Yesu hakutuambia akiwa karibu kuja tukatae kula, tugomee kula. Yesu alisema occupy till I come. That means we should do something, keep on working. Lakini Mackenzie anadanganya watu. Hii mafundisho yake ni mapotofu na mimi na yalani.
Reports indicate that other children were allegedly starved to death by their parents, believed to have been acting on an advice from the extremist spiritual leader.
Mimi na imani governor akikasirika hii biashara itakwisha hii ya Mackenzie. So nataka nimuulize governor wangu kwa heshima, kwa unyenyekevu. Mheshimiwa, jitokeze, watu wako wanaisha kwa ajili ya huyu jamaa, kuwapa imani ambazo ni potofu.
4 of the victims who are yet to be identified, however, passed away while medics attended to them. The survivors have since been admitted to Malindi Sub-County Hospital, with 3 of them in critical condition.
So far, the information at hand is that there are more people who are believed to be in the bush, and we are still in the course of investigations to go and see, to verify.
The bodies of the deceased persons were also taken to the facility's mortuary, pending identification and post-mortem.
So tuko hapa na families zenye ziko na watu wao ambao wengine hawajapatikana, na wale ambao wamefika hapa wengi pia hawajakuwa identified kwa sababu hii.
Police were however unable to verify the existence of the mass grave owing to the forest vastness and hostile residents.
Jamii yangu imekwamia huko msituni kwa bibi, wakazawana 2, watoto 2 na vijana 3 ambao pia walikufia huko msituni.
Timothy Kipnusum for Lunchtime News.
Indeed, a very bizarre and unfortunate incident. Now let's switch gear to politics, where Siaya Governor James Orengo is calling on the Kenya Kwanza leadership to adopt a reconciliatory language that will unite Kenyans. Orengo claims some remarks from a section of Kenya Kwanza leaders were raising political temperatures in the country.
Speaking in Usonga Ward after launching the construction of several development projects in the area, Siaya Governor James Orengo noted that it was time leaders got down to work.
There must be those assurances that Kenya Kwanza is serious. 1, Kenya Kwanza must show good faith by encouraging their leaders to talk in a language that can bring an enabling environment, not a toxic environment, in the discussions and conversations that we're going to have in order to bring the desired changes arising out of the complaints that arose out of the elections of 2022.
Elsewhere, a section of leaders from the Mount Kenya region has said Kenya Kwanza leadership will not give room for any power-sharing move.
Hii maneno ya handshake. Nyinyi watu wa kuhubiri mnataka handshake? Mnataka handshake? Tumesema we have given them an opportunity. And they decided they want an exit plan. Na William Ruto alisema ni sawa. So some of the issues, the only issue we can discuss as a country, because at the end of the day, when you finish your election, you prepare yourself for the next election.
I want to tell them the process that is available now is not the process of outside of the institutions created by our constitution. The only dialogue, the only personnel, the only commissioners or whatever name you have called them are members that have already been elected by the people of Kenya to represent them.
Finally, Kikuyu Council of Elders has urged the bipartisan team selected by the two political divide to have an all-inclusive team that will head talks affecting the people of Kenya.
Tunataka kuona tukiwa ndani hata sisi
sababu bado tuko na mambo mingi ya kuongea. Tuko na shida ya shule, tuna shida ya chakula kama watu wale wengine, tuko na shida ya representation hata kwa bunge na constituencies zetu. Sisi ni watu wengi, lakini vile sisi tunashukuriwa, kusema ukweli hakuna, there's no tuseme hakuna ile njia ya sawa.
And the government, through the Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, has signed a bilateral program in the fight against gender-based violence, GBV, and female genital mutilation, FGM. The agreement comes amidst the government's commitment to ending the vices.
In a bid to sensitize Kenyans against gender-based violence and female genital mutilation that has led to loss of many lives, Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action Cabinet Secretary Aisha Jumwa led the country in the signing of the Kenya-Finland bilateral program on gender-based violence and FGM.
Mkataba huu una mipangilio ya zile areas ambazo tunaenda kufanya collaboration between the Kenyan government and the Finland government. And I want to thank our development partners, and more so in this particular issue.
We've heard the elders and we've heard the urgency of action, so we really need to move forward.
While signing the agreement that was hosted in Samburu County, Jumwa emphasized on government's commitment in strengthening such partnership and called on communities residing in the mapped out counties to come on board and embrace the initiative.
Lazima tumalize ukeketaji. Na hakusema tu, anasema kwa vitendo. By pumping resources kwa hii board ya anti-FGM.
For people in the village, domestic violence is criminal. Hakuna mtu anaruhusiwa. Kutahiri wasichana ni mbaya. Tuachane naye. Wacha wasichana wanakae.
Just know that you have champions in us as your leaders, so that we make sure that our girls are safe and without even leaving our boys behind.
Elsewhere, Kuria community in Migori County has resorted to using arts to champion for gender equality, freedom of expression, and inclusion of women and children in addressing issues affecting the community. Through Kuria Arts Festivals, the participants use songs, drawings, dances, and art to sensitize the community.
This is quite interesting for us, because one of the things that we want to do through this pilot is not only to learn, but also to develop and co-create models that can be scaled up with the communities.
Opicha Chemtai for Lunchtime News.
And the government has moved in to quell tension between the local community and Centum Investment Company over ownership of a controversial 800-acre parcel of land at the Vipingo Saiso plantation in Kilifi County. Locally newly appointed County Commissioner Josephat B. Watt held a closed-door meeting with both concerned parties and ensured the status quo remains until investigations into the ownership of the parcel of land is resolved.
Addressing the media in his office, the county commissioner directed the status quo will remain until thorough investigations are complete to establish the truth. He announced the government has launched investigations into ownership of the controversial 800-acre parcel of land at Vipingo Saiso plantation in Kilifi County.
Tuangalie ile issues wali raise. Kwa mfano sasa, kuna titles which were surrendered to government 2001. Sizo titles ziko wapi? Mbona wachapewa? Kuna memorandum of understanding walikaa chini kati ya Centum na hiyo community kwamba within 6 months watapewa titles wenye wako squatters inside hiyo shamba ya Centum. So hizo sote nitakaa chini na watu wa Centum pamoja na Ministry of Lands, tutafuta way forward on how we can assist au wananchi wapate haki yao.
The administrator said he will convene a meeting with the management of the Centum Investment Company and Ministry of Lands official to chart the way forward to assist local residents access justice.
As much as we respect also investors, we want also to respect the community so that kila mtu apewe haki yake. The investors to have the right, the community to have the right. We create a conducive environment for investment.
At the controversial site, tension remained with members of the local community having pitched tents, demanding those who claim ownership of the lands to provide them with relevant documents to support their claims against theirs.
Asubuhi na tumeweka amani na tuko hapa kwa sababu ya amani. Na tumeambiana kwamba hakuna mtu ana ruhusa ya kuweza kukata konge la mwenyewe ama kufanya chochote. Sisi tunataka kung'ang'ania masuala haya tukiwa tunatumia sheria.
Tuna hakika kabisa kwamba ile certificate of title yetu iko valid, na kama kutatokea mtu yoyote mwingine atoe title deed nyingine, hakika tena sisi hatutakubaliana naye. Sisi ni wananchi, tutabaki hapa na tutakufa hapa.
Joan Junge for Lunchtime News.
And moving on, the Kenya Copyright Board has urged artists to be aggressive and remain vigilant in protecting their intellectual property. The board further urged the artists to familiarize themselves with the laws that govern the copyrights.
During a Creative Artists Week in Embu County, Deputy Director of Training and Research at the Kenya Copyright Board, Sharon Wata, said the national government was in the process of formulating a creative arts policy. She also applauded Embu County government for being the first to formulate a similar policy at the county level.
Sasa ukifanya utafiti sahihi, najua unaweza pata ya kwamba hii sekta ina contribute sana kwa economy ya Kenya. Hii sekta inafanya creation of jobs. Hii sekta inatoa mali, inatoa products, inatoa services ambazo zina feed back into the economy.
Wata said piracy was a problem impacting on artists. The One Week conference aims at helping the county formulate a policy that will govern operations in the industry, which has seen hundreds employed.
Tunaongea kwa muda mrefu mambo ya creative economy, but hakuna mtu amekuwa anaweka pesa. So tunataka kumwambia na kumelezea ya kwamba kama tutaona matunda yoyote, itaanza na funding hiyo budget ya all the activities.
The Creative Week has seen experts from the Kenya Film Classification Board, Kenya Copyright Board, among other government agencies attend so as to impart knowledge on the artists. For Lunchtime News, I'm Alvin Kaunda.
Now, the Department of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Blue Economy in Kilifi County has rehabilitated tractors in 35 wards that have been grounded in readiness for the planting season. The move aims at reducing the cost of ploughing by farmers in the county, as the youth in the area have also been urged to take up farming and agricultural initiatives. According to the County Executive Committee member for Agriculture, the county will charge 1750 shillings to plough an acre of land, as opposed to 2,500 shillings demanded by private business people.
So hizo tractors sasa tunavyoongea ziko sehemu za Magarini, ziko sehemu za Chonyi, hii Mwarakaya, ziko sehemu za Chasimba, ziko sehemu za Jaribuni, na vile vile bado tuko na mikakati ya kuziamsha zingine, kwa sababu kwa jumla Kilifi County tulikuwa na tractor 55, lakini zote zilikuwa zimelala.
Vijana hawako sana kwa mambo ya kilimo. Kwa hivyo tunahimiza sana vijana waingie mambo ya kilimo, na tunaona kwa average mkulima huwa ni kama miaka 50 hivi. Sasa tunajaribu kuhakikisha kwa wale youth tunao-involve kwa kilimo, na kile ambacho tumefanya, tuna programs ambazo ziko katika serikali gatuzi, ambazo tunazifanya katika serikali gatuzi, na pia tunashirikiana na serikali kuu pia nyingine. Tumeangazia mambo ya kilimo biashara.
Tunataka kuambia vijana kwamba waingilie ukulima. Ukulima una faida, ukulima una pesa kama kazi nyingine ile.
Time now for business, and the government will set up modern Ushanga curio malls across the country to boost small and medium enterprises. Arts and Culture Principal Secretary Umir Bashir says the government will train those involved in beadwork in 7 counties as part of tourism diversification strategy.
Beadwork has for long created job opportunities for majority of youth and women across the country, helping reduce the rate of unemployment. However, the beadwork business has been subjected to a variety of challenges, including lack of access to the global market. The government plans to set up curio malls for beadworks in 7 counties to empower beadworks artists.
To make sure we get good market for them, not just within this constituency, not just within this county, and not even within this country. We have international companies who are very interested, like Kate Spade, have actually approached us.
Bashir says the pilot project will begin in Kajiado County, targeting more than 200 women.
Sisi jamii ya Wamasai hii tunachukulia kama ni value addition ama njia ingine ambayo inaweza kutusaidia kwa katika biashara ili tuweze kujimudu kimaisha.
The curio malls are part of the tourism diversification strategy. Frederick Moki for Lunchtime News.
And the government is nudging agro-processors to increase the uptake of locally produced raw materials to boost the agriculture industry. Micro, Small, Medium Principal Secretary Susan Mangeni says use of locally produced materials remain low despite Kenya being an agrarian economy. She spoke during a meeting with various manufacturers.
Most of MSME players are still unbanked, unserved, and nobody reaches them down there.
We are starting from the market. We as agro-processors, we are the market. Of course, the consumer is the end market, but we are the market for those raw products. So once we aggregate this and we start working backwards, CAM is playing the role of convening power, bringing the processors, the financiers, the government in terms of policy, technology, how to access the farmers. So we want to work together to bring this ecosystem.
Boeing has halted deliveries of some 737 MAXs as it grapples with a new supplier quality problem by Spirit Aerosystems. The issue will likely affect a significant number of undelivered 737 MAX airplanes, both in production and in storage, and could result in lowered 737 MAX's deliveries in the near term. Here are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the
Boeing shares fell 5.3% and shares of Spirit Aerosystems fell 11.8% in after-hours trade following the announcement. Boeing said that the problem, which affects a portion of the 737 MAX family of airplanes, including the MAX 7, 8 and MAX 8200 airplanes and MAX 8200 airplanes, as well as P8 Poisodium maritime surveillance aircraft based on the 737 NG, is not a safety of flight issue and in-service planes can continue to operate. The Federal Aviation Administration has validated assessment that there was no immediate safety issue based on the facts and data Boeing presented. Agency will evaluate all affected aircrafts before delivery. Meanwhile, Japan, India and France have announced a common platform for talks among bilateral creditors to coordinate restructuring of Sri Lanka's debt, a move they hope will serve as a model for solving the debt woes of middle-income economies. Sri Lanka owes $7.1 billion to coordinate creditors, according to official data from its government, with $3 billion owed to China, followed by $2.4 billion to the Paris Club and $1.6 billion to India. The government also needs to renegotiate more than $12 billion of debt in Eurobonds with overseas private creditors and $2.7 billion on other commercial loans. Last month, the country secured a $2.9 billion program from the International Monetary Fund to tackle its huge debt burden. Sri Lanka kicked off talks to rework part of its domestic debt this month and aimed to finalize the deal by May. Finally, Singapore's central bank has left its monetary policy settings unchanged, reflecting the city-state's concerns about its growth outlook and surprising economists who had expected another round of tightening. The announcement came as Singapore's economic growth for the first quarter missed expectations. Singapore joined economies such as Australia, India, South Korea, and Canada that have recently posed sustained policy tightening campaigns as fresh concerns about global growth overshadow worries about persistently high inflation. Gross domestic product was up 0.1% in January-March on a year-on-year basis. According to advanced estimates from the Ministry of Trade and Industry, also released today, on a quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted basis, GDP contracted 0.7% in the first quarter. Terry Njenga, Lunchtime News.
Now, what do you do with malfunctioned gas burners, broken spoons, or leaking sufurias? You will most probably throw them away. Well, for 29-year-old Kamau Wanjoroge from Gilgil, these are his sources of livelihood, the raw material for making decor items that end up beautifying your living room. Take a look at this episode of Young and Industrious.
After driving for 121 kilometers from Kenya's capital, Nairobi, we are finally here at Gilgil in Nakuru County with our destination, Shalian Scrap Metal Workshop, clearly beckoning. The inevitable untidiness speaks volumes to the nature of work that goes on in here. What may appear as end product is actually the raw material for Kamau Wanjoroge's thriving business. 29-year-old Kamau Wanjoroge holds a Bachelor of Arts from Kenyatta University, but he is making a good living out of his artistic career, a passion he developed when he was a KU student.
I didn't want to go to Juakali because the person who will be teaching me Juakali, in Juakali there is a lot of limitations. I did some research and then through my dad, he told me about Komboni Polytechnic. I came here. I was amazed that there are so many resources, there's so much that is happening in the institution.
When he arrived and saw what the school offers, he knew that is what he wanted. All he needed was some seed capital to buy scrap metal to start implementing his business idea.
I was trying to make something sort of a trophy. After that, I discovered it's not coming out as I wished, so I went and looked for a map of Africa template, and now I started using the template to weld on. I wanted not just to weld, but to weld something creatively. So that is where my niche is, welding creatively.
Making decor items became Kamau Wanjoroge's niche. He later introduced the making of miniature products.
Started with the motorbikes, some scorpions. I'm surprised that people really appreciate them. Our mother sees the spoons and she's like, wow, these are like the spoons that in my house. I should bring you some of my spoons. So and they want to buy for their kid because they say the way that the waste is used will spark up an idea in their kids' thinking.
Njoroge purchases a kilogram of scrap metal at 100 shillings and a kg of the same makes him about 2 bikes. One bike goes for 2,000 Kenyan shillings.
A kg will make me, let's say, about 2 bikes, because right now I've bought about 4 bearings, and 4 bearings, those are 2 bikes, and the motorcycle, and plus the few things like the armature that I bought there.
He is in the process of expanding his enterprise, but some challenges here and there.
Would need to keep on producing and sell at the same time, because right now I'm using my personal savings, and purchasing metal every day, it's costly, it's cheap. They're selling it cheaply, but in the long run it gets expensive.
All right, now let's take a look at the day's sports, where defending champions Manchester City will be looking to make it 10 straight wins in all competitions when they welcome Leicester City at the Etihad Stadium in the English Premier League on Saturday. Meanwhile, 6th place Aston Villa will take on 3rd place Newcastle United as both teams battle for European contention at Villa Park.
Pep Guardiola's side Manchester City target to carry their momentum after beating Bayern Munich 3-0 in their Champions League quarter-final first leg at Etihad Stadium. Midfielder Phil Foden will miss the tie due to injury. Leicester City hopes to gather maximum points to aid their bad form after losing 4 and drawing 1 in their last 5 games. Meanwhile, Newcastle will travel to Villa Park in what is expected to be an entertaining match, since both teams have registered phenomenal results in their last few matches. Other games on card Saturday: Chelsea will host Brighton, Everton battle Fulham, while Tottenham will face Bournemouth. For Lunchtime News, I'm Sela Onyango.
And that is all the time we had for Lunchtime News, but more news in our subsequent bulletins at 7 and at 9 p.m. and also on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. I am Nissie Imano, and Lucy Mora has been our sign language interpreter this afternoon. Good afternoon.
Kupata sikiza tune hii ya kibeti, bonyeza *811*962#.
Haki umefanya vizuri sana kunifikia hii simu sasa. Nimekuwa na stress kutoka asubuhi kabisa. Na ni huyu mtu ambaye alikuwa anapatiana majina ya vitu. Kwani hakutufikiria sisi watu wa Eastern Ukambani? Ni nani alisema ati wife kwa Kiswahili ni mke? Na akasema ati handbaka. Hii inabebwa na mwanamke, handbaka. Ati kwa Kiswahili ni kibeti. Huku kwetu mke ndiye kibeti.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hiyo ya kibeti, bonyeza *811*962#. *811*962#.
If it's not urgent, leave my key here and then leave.
If you ask me to leave right now, you'll regret it.
Did you stay here because of Jenny?
What do you think?
I'm asking you.
No one knows the result before the end of a match. You know what kind of man I am. If I see something I like, I will try my best to get it.
So you're really gonna stay then? I knew that you weren't the kind of man who would leave his friends behind.
Okay, let's work on getting Taylor young.
Hey, Mr. Ba, your nose.
It's bleeding. I got it. Hurry, sit down.
From policymakers to implementers, as well as tech executives and legislators, the Connected Summit 2023 brought all the players in the ICT space to deliberate on the current state of ICT and, of course, map out the way forward into the future. This week on Inside Government, we revisit the Connected Summit 2023 with ICTA Chief Executive Officer Stanley Kamangoya. He's going to take us through their main achievement and, of course, what we should look forward for in the future. Thank you very much indeed, Bwana CEO, for joining us. Well, Connected Summit came and went. What has been your takeaway from this meeting?
Thank you very much, O'Brien, for first of all being with us throughout the summit, as we hosted a lot of delegates here in Diani. Indeed, this summit has been one of the most successful. In fact, it is the most successful so far. We registered over 1,500 delegates from across the country. We had very high level and high profile speakers who participated in this summit. We had good representation from all the arms of government. We had representation from judiciary, we had representation from parliament, and of course the executive side of government. Indeed, this particular summit brought together the delegates and the legislators. We have not seen in any other summit where members of parliament engage so closely with the sector. Therefore, we think that this summit has really been a huge success, and we have actually exceeded our expectations of the summit, and I'll tell you why. We thought that from this summit we're only going to largely take stock of the industry and maybe look at how to implement our national digital master plan going forward. But the ideas that have been shared in this summit has provoked new ways of thinking to be able to deploy technology going forward into the future. One of the issues that we have been facing is how the government works with the private sector in the area of digital investments, where we find the government is investing in the same areas whereas the private sector is investing. We have resolved through this summit to foster better collaboration with the private sector. And indeed, we have come up as a key outcome of this summit with a caucus, with a sector caucus, that will not only review the outcomes of this summit and help us to shape the implementation roadmap for the initiative that has been identified, as well